Joining me is Nationals MP Barnaby Joyce, former Deputy Prime Minister. Barnaby Joyce, record wheat crop this year and again, record coral cover, the Great Barrier Reef, record water in dams, fewer cyclones, sea level rises so small you wouldn't even notice. Where is this climate catastrophe the ABC keeps telling us about?
Well, it's directly attached to the nearly $1.1 billion they get a year to talk to, I'd say, less than a third of the Australian population who actually follow their views. It's a religion, Andrew. It's a religion. And religions don't have logic. They have fanatics. And every time I drive over the Sydney Harbour Bridge, I look down and go, my God, Fort Denison, you're still there. You should be gone by now. And every time I go to, Coogee Beach, I go, my God, Coogee Bay Hotel. You were, like, I was told you were going to be inundated. You'll be gone. I mean, we know that sea levels, nothing is static. It's a dynamic environment. The reason human beings made it to Australia is they most likely walked most of the way because the sea levels were vastly lower. Tasmania, even if you go to Launceston, you can see they say when this river was there, it was 65 metres lower than the surface of the river was 65 metres lower than it is now. Yeah, because of course these things change. But what they do is they inspire this into some sort of formulation that changes politics in Australia, and their mechanism is guilt. And they do this with the voice, they do it with so many other things. Guilt. You are a reprobate, you are evil, you are less than human, unless you agree with the tenets of their religion and then abide by every other fundamental of what it does to be a member of that religion and all the things you must be a part of to show you're a person of virtue, to show you're a person of moral worth. And do you honestly believe that any of those ABC reporters, even the tin pot reporters, tin pot so-called, I don't know whether they're geophysicists or climate scientists or what they are, but what they do is they reinforce the religious view that the ABC and others in the left have for the purpose of bringing about their domination of politics. And then this is reinforced by the Teachers Federation of Australia, who almost make it a sort of a core issue of everything that they teach the kiddies to terrify them, as he'd tell with that girl, terrify them, so that they can then, as a St. Ignatius said, give me a child till he's 7 and he's mine for life, or mine or hers for life. And this is what they do, the indoctrination to be part of the religion. But underneath all that rubbish is what they really want, which is the socialist purpose. The socialist purpose, which is the reaffirmation that that the state reigns supreme and dominates your life. And that's where they go, because they are an article and an employee and a beneficiary of the state.
Yes, controlling what you buy, what car you drive, the sort of things you're allowed to eat, how, it's just quite extraordinary.
How you think.
Meanwhile, the government's war on coal, the government's war on coal is continuing, Barnaby Joyce, based on all these insane scares that aren't true. The Environment Minister, Tanya Plibersek, today defended a decision to ban a coal mine in central Queensland. Here she is.
Really, the deciding factor for me was the scientific advice that we had from experts that, there were unacceptable risks here when it came to potential contamination of creeks, groundwater, and the effect that that potentially would have on the Great Barrier Reef.
Now, it's true Tanya Plibersek is basing her decision mainly on contamination of water rather than emissions, but everyone cheering it on is thinking another coal mine, good, not there. Your response?
Your second biggest export after iron ore, sometimes your biggest export. How do you think, look, this is really simple. If you've got a table with 10 people on it, and I get a $10 note, not that many people have them anymore, but a $10 note, and I pass that, and one person turns up with a $10 note and goes round the paper to the accountant who charges $10, who's sued by the solicitor who charges $10, who renovates the kitchen from the kitchen renovated $10, and around it goes. 10 by 10, $100. GDP of that table, $100. The person who brought it onto the table, well, they're only 10% of the GDP. But if that $10 note hadn't turned up, the GDP of that table would be Zero. So what is the name of the person who brought that $10 note to the table? The coal miner, the iron ore miner, the gas, the farmer, the cotton producer, the beef producer, the person who brought dollars from overseas into your nation, because look at it, you're watching me on an imported television, you're wearing imported clothes, you got an imported phone in your pocket, you got an imported car with imported fuel. I mean, we understand, we've got to have this 101 lesson in economics, and you've got to understand how this fundamentally works. So when Tanya Plibersek shuts down a coal mine, don't cheer, because what they're actually doing is shutting down the mechanism that brings wealth into our nation.
The children will not have much reason to thank us. Fake scares and killing the golden egg or the golden goose. Just quickly, Barnaby Joyce, something I think you probably know a little bit about. Alan Tudge quit today, the Liberal minister, citing threats to his children. The smear of the ABC didn't mention that, but we know all about it. You know, what's your response to all that?
Well, once more, the ABC is part of their religion. Surely, if they, I just think that I'm not going to make a judgment either way on Alan Tudge, but you know, we all know the politicians in the past on both sides of the political fence who we could have done our documentaries on. It's funny how they're only ever on predominantly documentaries about people on the conservative side of politics. Isn't that a peculiarity? The others are lauded as larrikins, you know, interesting people, colourful. But when it's on our side...
Funny guy.
Well, there you go. Great guy, larrikin. And, you know, and I'm not going to chase, you know, Bob Hawke, you know, demorchus nil nisi bonum. But it's, you know, what I don't like is that the ABC doesn't accept the consequences for what they create. And I tell you what, Alan Tudge's children had, you've created a nightmare for them. Do you accept responsibility for it? Do you accept that maybe your reports were wrong? Do you apologise? Do you want to go out and meet the children and say, might have had a bit to do with that, and I'm really sorry because apparently a lot of what we said was rubbish.
Oh, Barnaby, you're now, well, I thought you were a hard-headed realist, but now you're absolutely dreaming to think the ABC would apologise for anything. But
it annoys me so much. $1.1 billion. $1.1 billion each year.
Well, you guys had the chance.
Tell me the Conservative,
tell me the Conservative on the ABC's throat. You had your foot on the ABC's throat, and you didn't let them go. Barnaby Joyce,
I can tell you. And what happens is the bleeding people turn up and say, "Oh, we can't have a fight with the ABC." You know, mate, who's the Conservative reporter on the ABC? Who? Tell me one.
Not one that I know of. Not one. Barnaby, you've got to go. We'll talk about that another day. Thank you so much for your time.